Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending where you're watching this from. I'm Duck Mistress here with October Revolution and Tchaikovsky, and you're watching the first round of the Queensland Roller Derby Leagues live from Eagle Sport Complex, Brisbane, brought to you by Sun State Roller Derby and the Women's Flat Track Derby Association Broadcasting. This morning, we're going to see Brisbane City Rollers Red taking on Coastal Assassin Roller Derby's Card Katanas. This new tournament will see 5 leagues field 9 teams in 2 divisions over 5 rounds in the coming weeks. We don't have rosters, so we'll just be calling this as we can see it. And we're just underway in the first few minutes of the game.
Hello.
Hi. So as you can see, the game's underway. We have a jam, and that is BCR's Red at the front of the pack. And we're going to have to start using numbers, I'm afraid, because as I said, we don't have rosters, but we'll do the best we can to call the action as we see it. So both jammers in the pack, and that's a big hit out and recycle by BCR, but the pack speeds up to the front. And we're up there on the corner. I don't know if you can see anything there, Toba?
No, turn 1 is a mystery. The bench is in my way, but... Well, that was the end of the jam. Not quite sure. My feet's a little blurry, so I couldn't just see what the ref held up there, but it was points.
Yeah. It is just wonderful to be able to see roller derby. So this is fantastic, and we're just grateful to be able to watch this from the other side of the world. So the starting whistle goes off, and that's a fantastic hit out by BCR Reds, holding that jammer back while their jammer is out for lead. And completing that first lap really quickly, getting through the pack for points. Oh, gets the 4 full points. And fantastic work from BCR Red, holding back that Card Katana's jammer, who, announcer's curse, finally makes it out of the pack. So that's BCR on their 3rd scoring pass, approaching the pack. But the Katanas are about to score points.
I'm going to say that was a very good... Oh, let me follow you through that door there by the jammer wearing black. Forces the call off.
It does force the call off, but it was good that I think that Brisbane sort of did play that as long as they did to really try and maximise their points.
Yeah. So we just finished the 3rd jam. The score is BCR 26 and Card 7. So that's our score now. So 26 for the team in red, 7 for the team in black.
And that's the 4th jam underway. And that's a big tough pack up at corner 1, but again it is BCR Red who take lead, and it's the Katanas with their jammer stuck at the back of the pack. The BCR Red blockers being really fierce in these first few jams, enabling that scoring pass. Another one just about to go through.
BCR doing a great job here of using the apex to their advantage. It's the most amount of real estate for the blockers to cover, and that outside line or even in between these 2 packs of blockers is much easier to get through than in the straightaway. It looks like a power jam though.
Which is really interesting, because also we have... I was going to say, because I think that we had a... I thought it was a star pass.
Oh, you're right.
But
yeah.
But that
looked like
that did force the jam to be called off.
Yeah, I thought it looked like it was a power jam, but it wasn't because of the helmet color. The score now is 38 for the team in red, 7 for the team in black. That was the end of jam 4.
So it's BCR Red, Brisbane City Rollers Red, having the points in these first few jams, and their jammer pushing out up front on turn 1, while the Katanas have their jammer hit out to the inside, but kept in line and has made it out of the pack, but is not lead because of that first sort of exit from BCR's jammer.
And BCR is going to call that one off. holding card to 7. I think that'll keep the score at 38-7. That was the end of Jam 5, so we're about to go into Jam 6. My screen is really blurry, but I'm trying really hard. Okay.
Skaters back on track. BCR as usual taking that back line on the first whistle. And it's BCR again with lead jammer from turn 1. The jammer's definitely having more success coming out first. Back in the pack to score points. Pack still hasn't moved from turn 1. And the Katana's jammer stuck behind us. And that was some beautiful work there. Holding back 0, the Katana's jammer, and leaving the inside clear for BCR Red, picking up another 4 points. And another scoring pass just completed.
BCR is doing a fantastic job here of either opening up the inside or outside lane, but using their blockers to sweep the other team's blockers out of the way for their jammer. And because they're able to do that before the jammer hits the pack, that jammer doesn't lose momentum quite as often, although we're all caught up in turn 2 now.
I think this is the furthest we've seen the pack move in this game so far. But both jammers out, and it's BCR's jammer approaching the pack, trying to get 4 last points, and picks up some points in that. So pulled it off just at the right time, denying the Katanas any points.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the skip. That's going to be the score of 50 for the team in red, 7 for the Katanas. That is the team in black. They haven't scored in 3 jams now. And seen a scuffle on the start again. Going to be lead jammer to BCR. Pack stuck in turn 1 once more. The Katana's doing a good job now of holding that jammer.
I think we've seen that Katana jammer come around really quickly to try and call that, to force those calls off so quickly as possible.
Yes, it was a great job, too, by the Katana team not allowing BCR to sweep them out of the way so they could slow down the red jammer, and we get a 0-0 jam.
Different formation around the pivot line as the whistle goes. Both jammers in the pack. And I think the Katanas are starting to get the measure of those BCR jammers, holding back longer than we've seen in previous jams, but it is BCR who have the lead jammer.
Yeah, they're starting to adjust to the fact that BCR has been working the lines in the apex, and they're knocked that jammer out at least one more time. You can see, looks like there's been a star pass.
I think what we are seeing is that Card's Katanas, when they aren't lead, they are doing everything they can to just make it, one scoring pass, if that. They're really forcing those call-offs as quickly as possible.
Yeah, score now is 53 for BCR, 7 for the Katanas. So they've been able, I think, to hold BCR to those 3 points for the last 2 or 3 jams, so slowing down the differential there from what we were seeing in those first 4 or 5 jams.
Fantastic footwork from the Card Katana's jammer on that outside line, but it is BCR who come out with lead jammer.
Getting tapped out of bounds and held back in the pack. Looks like it's going to be a power jam for BCR. I see the Katana's jammer headed to the penalty box. That is off. I didn't see the penalty.
Yeah. It was a cut track penalty.
Oh, thank you.
But this is a good opportunity for BCR to really rack the points up during this power jam. That's 4 scoring points two scoring passes completed, but calls the jam off to retain, I think, the Katana's jammer in the box at the start of that next jam.
Yes. We're going to have a power start for BCR.
That's the phrase for it.
Score now is 61 for the team in red, 7 for Card, the team in black. And we are starting jam 10. And there we go.
So as we said, we're starting in a power start with the Card Katana's jammer in the penalty box for that cut penalty. And it's lead jammer to BCR, so clever use of the penalty and timings there from Brisbane.
Looks like we've got the star off the helmet of the jammer in black.
But that has helped their jammer get through, so to complete that initial pass for the Katanas. But BCR have completed another scoring pass and are deciding to play that jam long. So the Katanas have now scored 4 points. And BCR's jammer is in the pack, which is now on turn 3.
It's probably only the second or third jam we've made it all the way over to turn 3. I'm not sure we've seen turn 4 quite yet.
But that's another scoring pass completed for the Katana. So both teams picking up points in this jam.
Katana's putting their points on the board for the first time in about 5 jams. And we're waiting for the score to come in. It's going to be 69 for BCR and 15 for the Katanas, so they more than doubled their score that jam. We're starting jam 11. And I asked for the time on we have an OTO.
So while we are in this OTO, while we're in this official timeout, just want to talk about the new return to play update. So the WFTDA has published new COVID safety guidelines for leagues as they return to play. You can check them out at community.wftda.org. So as you can see, I'm from the UK, and we have managed to start being indoors on skates, but we haven't been able to do contact yet. So we're not underway. So it's been an absolute delight to watch roller derby actually for reals happening. I almost shed a tear as I started watching it.
My league hasn't even started returning to play at all yet. So this is, I think we're doing some pre-return to play workout type stuff. But here we go.
So we're underway again.
27 seconds. Oh. When the half started after this OTO, there's 15 minutes and 30 seconds left.
And it's the Card Katanas who are lead jammer out of the pack first. BCR Red's jammer still up front on turn 2, but the Katanas are now scoring points. But BCR's jammer is out and is now approaching the rear of the pack, forcing the call off from the Katanas. But they did manage to pick up points. So I think that the last couple of jams, the Katanas have actually picked up a number of points. So, really sort of showing how they're getting used to how BCR are playing.
Yeah, and I think it feels good in the momentum when you're putting up points. The score right now is 69 for BCR. The Katanas are at 19. We're starting jam 12. That's a 50-point differential.
But it's BCR Red who are out first with lead jammer, but both jammers now out of the pack, and the race to turn 1 and an apex jump from BCR, getting the points, calling the jam.
I can't see if it's 3 or 4. It looks like it might be all 4. I can't tell. Let's see what the score is. That was the Katanas have not been able to pick up lead for quite a while now, but keeping their jammer with the other jammer to pick up points and try and hold the differential where it is a good way to play in the first half of the game. Score now is 73 for BCR, and Katanas are at 19. The clock is 13 minutes and 52 seconds.
And we have a timeout called by, I think, the Katanas, just based on by BCR, actually. Apologies. It's BCR who've called a timeout. So while we're in this timeout, it's an opportunity to talk about a big shout out for Tweed Valley, who are one of the other leagues playing in this QRDL tournament over the next few weeks. So a big shout out to Tweed Valley's home rink, Epic Skate Rink. You can find details about the rink, including Learn to Skate, open skate sessions and pro shop at epicskaterink.com.au. And thank you also to Tweed Valley sponsors Trim, Tile Reglue Injection Method from loosetiles.com.au and DRM Projects. And if you're interested in skating with Tweed Valley, message them through their Facebook page or hit up their website at tweedvalleyrollers.com. And they have a new skater intake every month.
Oh, thank you for all that information. I didn't know.
I just think Tweed Valley's a fantastic name.
It is. It's all fantastic. I'm just getting my feet back under me. I'm just saying the same things. And on Twitch, It's Hardcore says, I'm very much enjoying the front OPR running backwards on toe steps. Running backwards is a skill I do not have, and doing it on roller skates, even more.
So we've completed that timeout and the jam's underway. BCR picking up lead jam and approaching the pack to pick up first scoring pass on the inside, pushing to the outside. And there's some incredible defense work from both teams. The Katana's jammer having to take the helmet cover off, but still being pushed to the outside and held back on turn one. But that's a completed scoring pass for BCR Red.
Katana's able to hold that jammer a little bit longer than usual.
Yeah, but just as I say that, the Katanas get their jammer out, approaches the pack, forces the call off. Just hoping I can see fingers.
Yeah, there are fingers.
Can't quite see the fingers of the jam refs.
Quite what they are. It's going to be 78 for BCR. The Katanas are still at 19. We're over halfway done with this half of roller derby.
Yeah. And we're underway again. And that was an incredible hit out from the Katanas on the BCR jammer at the last second, and a full roll back all the way back to turn 4. That was fantastic.
A great job by the Katanas here of being able to hold themselves together to keep a shape and get that jammer out. Just as I say that, BCR gets lead jammer.
Announcer's curse happens every time.
Second you talk.
But it's back on another scoring pass for the BCR Red jammer, but the Katana's jammer still stuck at the back of the packs, hasn't moved past the pivot line, really having trouble with that BCR defence up front, just as the BCR jammer skates round backwards on the outside to complete a scoring pass.
Yeah, BCR has been doing a fantastic job of control. So BCR has been doing a fantastic job of controlling the speed of the game, so making sure they keep the play in the apex where they have the most room to play for their jammer, and then also knocking those blockers around so that it's really difficult for the Katanas to make shapes and slow down their jammer, and it becomes much easier to sweep them out of the way because they're not in those kind of like braced walls. I don't know, I call them like amoebas. So that seems to be the strategy here for BCR, and right now the clock is at 12 minutes and 20 seconds and the score is 86-19, Red on top.
And that's both jammers in the pack, but it's BCR Red with a hit out right on that outside line, taking 0 back all the way to the pivot line. But both jammers having to push hard up on turn 1. That is 2 tight defensive packs. And we're still looking for lead jammer. I think this may be the longest we've gone so far this game.
I think so.
And the pack's been pushed out to turn 2.
Great job holding that formation, slowing down that jammer. That was a beautiful push out, but Unfortunately, the Katana blocker also went out of bounds, so that's going to be lead jammer now for BCR.
And the BCR red jammer trying to approach the pack, which is still on the straightaway between turns 2 and 3, but the Katana's jammer is also out. And BCR see the danger, call the jam. So that was Jam 15 that's just happened. Just a note, if you are intending to watch this all weekend, and who wouldn't, we're a little delayed for the start. Please keep an eye on the Twitch stream to find out where we are around your time.
And we've got 87 for BCR, 19 for the Katanas. Big hit out there by the Katanas. Recycle of that BCR jammer. The BCR jammer is pushing in from the outside. And stopped up front by a 2-wall. And lead goes to BCR.
It is BCR who pick up lead jammer, still on turn 1 with the Katana's jammer 66, I think is the number. Trying to push on that inside line. But it's BCR who make it through to pick up the 4 points. And that's, again, fantastic defensive work we've seen from both teams, but it is a penalty for the Katana's jammer, so it is a cut penalty. So it is a power jam now to BCR red.
And they're out there in turn 2 where we don't have the best vision, but you can see the skates go through. Tana's now holding that jammer up at the front, able to get into the straightaway. Gives him a little bit easier time of it.
Some incredible one-on-one blocking up front from that Katana blocker.
And
we'll just see what the impact was on the score.
Just a shout out to the team on the ground right now in Australia, feeding us all of the information that we can't see through the stream and feeding us the stream itself. Score right now is BCR 99 and Katana's at 19. The clock is 7:41 on this half, and it's Jam 17.
And we have a power start to BCR red, who make the most of it, picking up lead jammer. The pack's still at the apex, but the Katana's jammer is out of the box and back in the pack.
Holding the helmet cover.
And BCR trying an apex jump.
That was a beautiful push by the jammer in black through that defense and the straightaway.
So BCR saw the Katana jammer approaching the back of the pack, called the jam, kept it safe.
It was a good force off by the Katanas, keeping that score a little bit closer than other power starts have seen. Looks like we have a timeout, but I can't see which bench it's being pointed at. Timeout by BCR.
I'm not sure if it's a team timeout or
Yeah.
I think I saw an official review hand signal. Oh, timeout BCR. We've got the update from the wonderful team. And as you said, it's fantastic that we're able to watch roller derby happening on the whole other side of the planet and talk about it. And that's thanks to the great team in Australia who have put this on. But also, there is an opportunity for you to broadcast your games without the expense and hassle of traditional streaming. The remote studio can get your games to a global audience, or to me, at least, with as little as a smartphone. No matter your location or budget, get streaming with a remote studio. Contact broadcast@quadmedia.tv.
Just going to update, this is an official review being called by BCR.
I did get the hand signal right.
You did. I mean, I'm sorry to say, I don't know if it's the size of my monitor or what, but everything's just a little blurry for me, so bear with me. It's like when you call a game in the venue and you're wearing sunglasses because the fluorescent lights give you a migraine, or is that only my experience and not everyone's universal experience?
Oh, it's calling a game when you've forgotten to bring your glasses and you can't see the other side of the track particularly well. I've done that before.
I don't think I could call anything without my glasses. It'd be very amusing.
So the official review has come to an end. We're back on track, and there's the whistle.
There we go.
Yeah. And that is absolutely solid wall at the jam line from both teams. Oh, and it's a power jam now because the Katana's jammer has been sent to the box.
Score right now is 102 for BCR and 19 for the Katanas. We're in jam 18, and like you just said, it's a power jam.
But it still took quite a number of seconds for them to pick up lead jammer, but that's now happened. But they've decided to have a power start and have called the jam.
BCR has done this now every time they've gotten a power jam. They've called off the jam before the end in order to get a power start. It's an interesting strategy, especially considering it's not like every time they have lead they've been able to hold the Katana's jammer entirely. But it does give them another lead, although I could be wrong, but I think that BCR has had lead like every single jam.
And no, the Katanas have picked up a couple of lead jams, but it's been how quickly they've been able to, or how many passes they've been able to make that's really made the difference. But BCR picking up lead, there was some beautiful work on the outside line in both passes there, but it's a scoring pass for BCR, and the Katana's jammer back on the track, blasts through the pack, and is approaching for a scoring pass.
That was some beautiful skating by the Katana's jammer. I love when it looks like people are literally sprinting on roller skates. Oh, that was fun.
Oh, wow. But
Gazelle.
No,
Gazelle
that is.
Yep,
that's a cut penalty, so it's a trip. It's a second trip to the box for the Katana's jammer. But BCR taking a while to get out of that pack on that scoring pass. That they have completed now, and it is a power jam.
And they're going to keep running the clock on this one.
Yeah. So what was interesting in that jam was that BCR jammer decided to play that jam long, and then the Katanas picked up a penalty. So that's really put them in a position, again with that power start. But they've been able to complete a number of scoring passes in that jam. So we're just waiting to see the score update.
I'm gonna say that always feels really good when you're a jammer, when you take the risk, like, I'm gonna keep going, and then you get a power jam. It's like, yeah.
So we have a quick official timeout. And it's lovely to see the skaters supporting the officials. Giving the gun show. The gun show, yes.
I started roller derby as a non-skating official. And have done many times on the line with the 5 minutes in the air. Don't forget to be a part of the roller derby conversations at WEEF FTDA Collective. Signing up is easy, and you'll be able to connect with other folks, skaters, officials, announcers, and volunteers returning to roller derby from near and far. You can find more information at community.wftda.org.
I think nothing is taught. I was going to say, if we have learned nothing in the last year, it's how important community is.
Oh, that's 100% true. Score right now is 114 for BCR, still 19 for the Katanas.
And we're underway. And it's the BCR jammer who is recycled all the way back by the Katanas. Even though it's a power start, they're really making it difficult for BCR to pick up lead. And we have the Katanas jammer back on track.
Katanas do a wonderful job when they're able to keep their blockers together and really create that wall defense in the front. And I honestly have seen some of the best bridging I've seen it in a long time, although I guess I haven't seen a ton of roller derby. There's some really great bridging and stretching of the pack, and going from 4 to 3 to 2 to 1 defender.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been beautiful to watch, and you can see it now that we still have the pack spread between the apex, between turns 1 and 2 and the straightaway, but it's now collapsed back up. Both jammers still in the pack.
Yeah,
we still
really
haven't had to lead jammer yet.
I'm going to say it's really difficult to do that around the apex too, because those 10 feet don't look the same on the curved space. So being able to kind of hold a stretched out pack like that is a skill of geometry. 250 left on the clock
Katana's
right
picking
now.
up lead. Sorry, Katana's picking up lead for the first time in a number of jams, and we have a star pass from BCR Red freeing up their now jammer out of the pack, approaching for the scoring pass. And the Katanas have actually decided to play it long, so that's allowing BCR to pick up points.
Makes sense here when you're so far behind. If you have control, you might as well keep control. We'll see if that continues though after the second time being lapped.
So that is a penalty So the Katana's jam are picking up a penalty, which means this jam will go the full 2 minutes, which is just completed.
There was just over 3 minutes left on the clock during that jam, so I'm not 100% sure, but we're going to be close to the last jam, if not the last jam. It's kind of fun to try and figure out how many moments have passed. Score is 126 for BCR, and it is 25 for the Katanas. They were able to put some points on the board that last jam.
And it is the Katanas who had the hit back on the and rollback of the BCR Red jammer all the way back to the jam line, but now pushing up at the top of turn 1 and the apex, and it's lead jammer to BCR Red. Katana's jammer hit to the inside on turn 1 and recycled. And it's all happening on the apex. That's BCR completing a 4-point scoring pass. Katana's jammer at the apex, having taken the helmet cover off, trying to get out, and does so just as BCR approach for second scoring pass.
That was a star pass, it looked like. I saw a pivot stripe as that jammer passed me on the screen. Forces that call off. Clock was at 40 seconds, so we'll see if we get another jam.
Well, the teams are lining up.
It looks like we probably will. Score is 134 for BCR, 25 still for the Katanas. And we're waiting. Yep, looks like it's gonna. Everybody looks like they're gonna go. So I say, yep, there it goes. Probably our last jam.
And it's the Katanas who find the inside line, pick up lead jammer. BCR Red jammer is still stuck on turn 1, just as the Katanas approaching for scoring pass.
It feels really good to go into the half with lead.
But both walls are solid up on the apex. Both jammers in the pack. BCR Red now completing initial pass. Oh, but picks up a track penalty. So this will... Oh, right at the end of that jam. A lot went on in those last few seconds, but the jam was called just as BCR Red picks up a penalty. So we'll be starting the half with a power start.
Yep, we got a 15-minute halftime here, and waiting for the score on the half. So the score is 134 for BCR, 27 for the Katanas. They were able to put 2 on the board in that last jam of the half. And the story of that half is BCR able to pick up lead consistently, scored points consistently, and keep the Katanas defense from holding back their jammer, specifically by using those inside and outside lines on the apex and sweeping those blockers out of the way. As we were getting into the back half of the half, the Katanas were doing a little bit better of keeping their blockers together and bridging out so that they were able to hold those jammers a little bit longer and give their jammers some time.
So we've got 10 minutes for half time. So make sure that you come back. But in those 10 minutes, don't forget to check out the Return to Play update. The WFTDA has published new COVID safety guidelines for leagues as they return to play, and check them out at community.wftda.org while you go and recover and ready for the second half. And welcome back to the first round of QRDL's sort of mega tournament, mini tournament, several weeks of roller derby. And today we are at Eagle Sports Complex, Brisbane, brought to you by Sun State Roller Derby and the Women's Flat Track Derby Association Broadcasting. We just had the first half of Brisbane City Rollers Red taking on the Coastal Assassins Roller Derby's Card Katanas. And the scores are at the moment, Toba?
134 for BCR, and the Katanas have 27. That is our score
so
coming into the half.
And we will be starting on a power start for the... Trying to think which team it is now.
Katanas. I believe the Katanas have the power start. You're welcome.
So the first half was a game very much of BCR Red's jammers able to get out and to be able to put those scoring passes on, but the Katanas really showing some moments of control during that first half. So let's go back and see if we can see them pick that up in the second half.
And there's the whistle, and we're off.
And it's turn one where all the action is. Oh, and we have a cut penalty for...
That's going to
swap the Katana's jammer.
Yeah, it was Katana's jammer, which then released the BCR jammer, who's now in the pack going into turn one.
And has picked up lead jammer. But that has also meant that it was a reduced time for the Katana's jammer, who is also out of the pack and back on track. Both jammers in the pack at turn one, but BCR now scoring points. And the Katanas are trying to see whether that was a star pass or it was a back block penalty.
Yeah, that's going to be another power jam for the BCR. Quite a few of them in the first half, and starting off the second half with 2 right off the bat.
But it's BCR's jammer back in the pack on another scoring pass, and they're pushing the pack out to almost to turn 3. So that's great work from and determination from the BCR jammer, who has completed for 4 more points. And it's a solid wall up front against the BCR Red jammer, who gets through to complete another scoring pass. But the Katana's jammer out of the pack and back on track, finds a hole on the outside and completes initial pass for the Katanas.
Great defense here by the Katanas in turn 3, able to slow down that jammer. Looks like that's going to be the end of that jam. And let's see what the score is looking like when it comes in from our team on the ground. Great job by the Katanas there, slowing down that jammer, stretching out that jam and forcing the call off. Good way to kind of get their jammer off the track after a couple of penalties in a row. Score now is BCR 148. Katanas are at 29. We're going into jam 2. 2 points
and it is
so far in
BCR who have got sorry, and the BCR who get lead jammer and complete that first scoring pass, but the Katana's jammer is out and approaching the pack, and BCR call the jam.
There it is. It's kind of fun to get used to calling without being able to see you or have any sort of idea if you're about to speak.
Or a delay caused by, the Atlantic.
Oh, it's true. We're calling a game in Australia, an ocean apart from each other.
Exactly. exactly. So, but I think, it just shows how incredible the technology is and how great everybody is in being able to put this together. It truly is a global event.
Yeah, it's super fun that we get to have events like this go on now. 152 for BCR now, still 29 for the Katanas. We're headed into Jam 3.
And it is the Katanas jammer who is covering the whole width of the track, but hit out to the inside, and was recycled, hasn't really gone past the jam line. I'm just trying to see what's going on because the picture isn't as clear as it's been. It is the Katanas who pick up the lead jammer.
Yeah.
But the BCR red jammer is out of the penalty box, back on track in the pack at the turn 1. So we have the Katanas on a scoring pass, BCR red on their initial, but it's the Katanas who are going to pick up the points. 4 points, making it through the pack.
First unanswered points for the Katanas in quite some time. Able to kind of put a dent in this differential that has not been in their favor. It's going to be a call off.
So BCR red putting up a strong defence, forcing the Katanas to call off the jam, but the Katanas will be starting with a power start. So it is now BCR 152 points, and it's the Card Katanas on 29, and that was Jam 3?
Yes.
Which makes this Jam 4. So we have a tough pack back at the jam line. Both jammers trying to push their way forward. And I think that was the BCR red jammer picking up a penalty.
I don't see the jam ref leaving the pack, though. Lead does go to the Katanas,
who are now in the pack on a scoring pass. It may have been a recycle. I was trying to read hand signals.
There was a penalty called at that moment, but the jam ref didn't leave the pack, so I'm going to say it was a blocker penalty. Or they stopped the penalty. I can't see over there, but it's going to be a call off. Oh. By the Katanas. On the score is 152 for BCR, 39, so 10 points on the board for the Katanas in those last 2 jams, as that was just Jam 5. Clock is 23 minutes
now Jam
and 15
6.
seconds on it.
And this is Jam 6, BCR picking up the lead jammer. We've now seen some of the paperwork, and it's actually the BCR Block Lobsters, not BCR Red, so apologies for using the incorrect name there. But it is BCR Block Lobsters, which is, I think, my new favourite team name. The Katanas take an advantage.
Oh, you can finish. I was just going to tell a story. It's not important right now.
Okay, so the Katanas were approaching the pack, but the jam is being played long. So both jammers in the pack, both scoring now. Oh, and that was a massive hit on the inside line. The Block Lobsters jammer able to get through, complete that scoring pass, whereas the Katanas are still, although on a scoring pass, yet to complete.
That's going to be the end of that jam. I'll see what the score looks like. What I was going to say was my 2.5-year-old, when she was a baby, she would only sleep if you were blasting Rock Lobster as loud as your phone would play it. And so there's a great there was a great moment where Go-Go Boots, who you might know,
I do know, yes,
was holding my iPhone over my baby's head as we were driving home from about blasting Rock Lobster. So it's a song near and dear to my heart. So I also am a fan of the name. Score is 164 for BCR, 41 for the Katanas. Able to put points on the board the last 3 jams now.
So both jammers in the pack on turn 1, still looking for that lead to be called. And it is BCR, the Block Lobsters, who pick up lead jammer. And approaching the pack now for first scoring pass.
Katanas were able to turn the momentum in their favor those first few jams of this half, but BCR seems to have adjusted and is back to picking up lead over and over again. Though the Katanas here doing a great job of slowing that jammer down and getting theirs out of the pack.
But the Katanas jammer approaching now, able to score points, and does force the call off of that jam.
Wait on the score here. Katanas have been doing a much better job in the second half of keeping their blockers together and controlling play on the track, but BCR is still able to get those jammers through.
Yeah, it's definitely taking longer for the Block Lobsters jammers to get through. You can definitely see how that defense is coming together from the Katanas.
Yes, I agree. And that's the glory of the locker room at the halftime.
But that was an incredible piece of inside line work from the Katanas jammer to make it out for lead.
Yeah, I think the Katanas have picked up lead now more in the second half than in the whole first half combined. So whatever adjustment they did do in the locker room, it's helping them out.
But again, as you were talking about earlier, fantastic bridging out front to keep that Katanas jammer in the pack.
Yeah, really good track awareness by the Katanas. And then, of course, BCR has great track awareness when it comes to keeping opening pockets for their jammers and then immediately closing it up for the opponent's jammer. So different kinds of track awareness, and it's fun to watch them play against each other. It's going to be the end of that jam. Wait on the score.
Yeah, so the BCR jammer was out, and that forced the Katanas to call the jam.
About 10 minutes gone in this half so far. BCR at 168, Katanas at 45, so that was a 4-point jam for them. That was jam 8, I believe. Remember, Katanas started this half with 27 points, so almost doubling it.
But it's BCR who pick up leads and are now in the pack scoring points, but the Katanas have got their jammer out of the pack, who's also approaching for points. BCR see the danger, call the jam.
Probably the quickest jam we've seen so far in this half.
But definitely, I mean, the Katanas have a consistent strategy of trying to force that call off as quickly as possible, and just trying to stop multi passes, and that's been really effective, especially in the second half.
And I was going to say, it makes sense for you when you're in the lead. Score now is 172 for BCR and 47 for the Katanas. And it makes sense for you when you're in the lead to call those jams off when you have control, because you click 30 seconds off the clock every time you stop it. I mean, every time you end a jam. So in the second half, when you're in the lead, there's no reason not to keep burning time. Score is the clock is at 17:36 when we started this jam.
But it is Katanas who've picked up lead and are out of the pack, about to approach for points, but BCR Block Lobsters right behind. The Katanas call the jam just in time to stop the Block Lobsters from scoring any points.
But did they score points? It looks like maybe some.
Yeah.
Waiting on the score to see. This is a much more balanced game than we saw in the first half. And of course, there was a huge point differential, so the Katanas would really have to dominate this half for them to win. But we are seeing that differential not growing at the same sort of exponential pace that it was in the first half.
And I think what's important to remember is that this isn't just a weekend tournament. There's a number of competitions over the coming weeks. Where, what both teams are going to take away from this, they'll be able to use throughout this mini tournament. This QRDL. So I think that, even this sort of second half change is going to be really important for the Katanas as they go into their next games.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you get used to the floor, you get used to the official staff, you get used to the temperature of the room, the locker room setup, all of that stuff. Every time you start a new tournament or game, you have to kind of adjust to those sort of things, and every moment you spend in them, you get better at performing there.
Yeah. The next jam underway, both jammers in the pack on turn one, but it's the Katanas who... Oh, that was really tight on who came out first. And actually it's the Block Lobsters who are lead. It's the Katanas who are in front who are not lead. And the Block Lobsters call the jam.
We're about halfway through.
That was fun.
This last period, it was fun. We're about halfway through this last period of the game. The score going into that was 172-49. Not quite sure what it was coming out. And just so you know, those who are following along at home, because this is coming from across the world to us, our feed isn't super fantastic, so we can't read those numbers reliably. So it's not that we don't want to say your names, it's that we don't want to get them wrong. So please forgive us for the vagueness of our calls.
But it's not vague for the Block Lobsters, who have lead jammer again and are approaching the pack for a scoring pass. Katana's jammer stuck in the pack on turn one, and the Block Lobsters pick up 4 points.
And there we go
making
again.
It through for a second scoring pass for the Block Lobsters. And actually making easy work of that third pass through. And that's on the just coming out of turn two. The pack hasn't moved, so the Katana's jam is still in that pack, but the Block Lobsters seem to have found a way to just skate through that pack and rack the passes up, rack the points up.
Yeah, really doing a good job of breaking through that floor wall in the front. Although this time
we have a star
pass.
Yep, we have a star pass from the Katanas who forced the call off, and that jam does come to an end.
The bout after this one is the BCR Banshees versus the TVR Valkyries. So don't stop watching roller derby.
At 11.
Yeah, I was going to say 11 Australian time. You can watch roller derby all day or all night or both, depending on where in the world you are located.
So the next jam is underway, and it's the Katana's jammer up front. It's the Block Lobsters being held at the back on the pivot line as we go into turn one. Katana's jammer pushing out front.
The score going into this jam was 192 for BCR, 49 for the Katanas.
But it's BCR. Block Lobsters have got lead jam, and they're approaching the pack for a scoring pass. But we have I'm not sure if that's a star pass or a helmet cover stash, but the Katana's jammer is out of the pack and approaching to score points, and that forces the call off.
Good jam there for the Block Lobsters. Waiting on the score. Remember, we had less than half of the half left going into that jam. Around 13 minutes, so we're probably somewhere in the 11 to 12 minute mark, depending on how time works. But I feel like for the last year and a half or so, time has had no meaning. I do not understand it
I would
anymore.
say I do not experience time in a linear fashion anymore. So we have a timeout, which has been called by the Coastal Assassins Roller Derby's Card Katanas. So while we are in that timeout, it's just an opportunity to talk about roller derby insurance. Are you getting back to Derby? Make sure your WFTDA insurance coverage is up to date. Log into the member portal to check your coverage status or go to WFTDI.com for more information. Discounted insurance rates are still available to US-based leagues and skaters. Canadian leagues and skaters go to WFTDICanada.ca for member benefits and information. And it's also, did
you know that ramp and bowl skating is covered by WFTDA insurance? If we're going to talk about insurance, Junior Derby and Bank Trek 2, you can check that out also at WFTDI.com. You can learn more about getting supplemental insurance that helps you when you get hurt on skates. Terms and conditions apply, of course. And like I said, you can learn all about all that insurance at WFTDI.com. And if you're in Canada, WFTDICanada.ca.
So 11 minutes, 57 seconds remaining in this half. It is Jam 13, BCR on 196, playing the Katanas on 49. Jam is underway. And we're just looking to see that it is the Block Lobsters who have picked up lead jammer, who are now approaching the pack for a scoring pass. Katana's jammer still stuck at the pivot line, being recycled. Just such great defence from both teams. I always end up spending more time admiring the blockers in games like these.
Super fun to see what the strategy is. Beautiful shut down there on the apex by the BCR blocker of that jammer from the Katanas. Of course, the jammer for BCR is still stuck up front.
It is one of those hits where you go oof and you're not even the one being hit.
Yeah, it's true.
The Katana's jammer.
Apexes, though.
Katana's jammer out and approaching the pack for a scoring pass, forces the call off.
And let's see what the score is looking like. This has been fun. It's been fun to try and do this again. It's 199 for BCR, 49 for the Katanas coming out of that jam. So the Black Lobster is able to adjust to that Katana's momentum in the front half of this half. We're seeing a little bit of a different story now after the 15-minute mark.
And it's the Block Lobsters who pick up lead again. So I think, as you're saying, we're seeing the Lobsters adjust to how the Katanas adjusted. So that's what you tend to see in the second half. Everybody's working out how everyone works, and then they have to change it up. But that's a scoring pass completed by the Block Lobsters. The Katana's jammer is still in the pack, and that's now on turn 2. We have a star pass from the Katanas. So it is now the Katana's jammer who is approaching the pack on the scoring pass.
I was going to say, not a ton of blocker penalties in this game. I mean, there goes a blocker to the box, ironically, but we haven't seen tiny packs or 3-on-2 or 2-on-2. It's been, blocker here, blocker there.
The Katanas finally forcing that jam to be called off, but both teams picking up points in that last jam. Be interesting to see what that's done to the scores.
206
I agree with you.
53 for the Katana.
I agree with you. I mean, we've seen a lot of blockers on track. I think that's why I've been admiring the defense so much, because we've seen so many defenders on track.
I agree. I think that it's fun when you play roller derby with everybody on the track. I love it.
And the Katanas very quickly picking up. Oh no, sorry. It's the Block Lobsters.
Oh,
it did look like a black jersey, and then they came around the corner and it was a red jersey.
Yeah. I had the same experience. Technology is the best.
So what happened there was that it was the Block Lobsters who picked up lead, but the Katanas came out and forced the call off as they were approaching the pack on a scoring pass.
Alrighty.
And I clearly need to go to
bed. No. Score stays 206 for the Black Lobsters, 53 for the Katanas.
So we're now starting Jam 17. We got less than 9 minutes left on the clock. And we have the pack up at the pivot line.
It's a very fast half we've had. It was only 21 jams in the first half. We're already at, 19? And we've got 8 minutes left. Oh, we're at 17. So still quite shorter jams here in the second half.
I think that's one of the biggest recycles we've seen on a jammer right at the start of a jam. The Katanas taking the Block Lobsters all the way back to the apex between turns 3 and 4, which has let them get their jammer out first. Lead jammer to the Katanas.
Beautiful work by the Katanas right there, taking that jammer to the pass. The Katanas blockers have struggled with getting those jammers over the line. They have been able to slow down the Black Lobsters jammers and even get them all the way to the line, but not a lot of huge recycles like you were saying, because they've been able to stay, the jammers have been able to stay inbound when those blockers have been pushing on them, so not a lot of completion over the lines there.
But we've seen a very static pack, still not really gone past the pivot line. The Katanas in particular, their jammer is up at front now on the turn 1. But it's being held back by a very strong defense from the Block Lobsters. Both defensive walls are really, really strong up on turn 1. We're still not really moving from that turn 1, and we're well into this jam. So, of course, because I said that, the game has now changed, and we have the Block Lobsters out. And that's forcing the call off of the jam.
Let's see what the score looks like. That was a good slow jam. Grinding those jammers to a halt in those apexes, as you were saying. Slowing down the scoring a little bit. We're lined up once more. Another shout out for the team on the ground there, feeding us the score 210 to 57 with Black Lobsters on top.
And this is Jam 18. We're on the apex between turns 1 and 2. Still haven't got a lead jammer yet. And as I say that, it is the Block Lobsters who pick up lead. Katana jammer recycled back to turn 1.
We had about 6 minutes left at the start of this jam, so that's around where we are in the period right now.
And it is the Block Lobsters who are on a scoring pass. The Katanas jam are still not completing their initial, but taking an inside line. Hop, skip and a jump, but it's a hit out to the inside and was not a recycle. It was a no pass, no penalty. So that is the Katanas jammer out, about to start scoring. And that forces the call off of the jam.
Exactly what I was going to say. That forces that call off of the jam. And let's see what the score does. That looked like BCR was the only one to score, but I couldn't quite see how many fingers that jam ref was holding up. And momentum is, of course, shifted back to the Black Lobsters after we passed by the 15-minute mark in this half, and they've been really adding on to that differential.
Great track awareness from the Block Lobsters jammer, knowing where their feet landed in that spill on the outside line on turn 1, completing for lead jammer, and about to start a scoring pass. Katana's jammer now on... Pass
began was 215 to 57. Continue, sorry.
That's okay. The Katana's jammer has now pushed the pack round to turn 3, but the Block Lobsters have completed that scoring pass and about to go for their third. If I can count, although that's not guaranteed. That's another scoring pass for the Block Lobsters. Katana jammer now having had to push the pack an entire lap of the track. We're back up onto turn 1, but has now completed their initial pass. And that forces the call off of the jam.
And we're going to reset all the peoples on the lines. Ooh. Looks like an official review is being called by the Katanas. That will stop the clock and give us a little bit of time to talk about the things.
So if you want to be notified every time that we go live with games, follow us on Twitch. And if you have an Amazon Prime account, you won't see any ads by using your free Prime subscription. Ask in chat if you need help linking to your account. And just want to give a big thanks to everybody involved in putting this stream on and all the games that we've been able to watch recently that have been broadcast and all the ones that we know have got coming up, because for people who are not living in Australia and New Zealand, this is all we can get. And it's the best thing ever because it reminds us how important roller derby is, what it is, that there isn't a ball, and that the community is everything. So follow us on Twitch.
And if you want to watch us again later, all of our live games are published on YouTube just a few days later. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit that thumbs up button and let us know you like the show. It helps out the channel. It allows us to keep bringing you derby coverage from the remote studio. And of course, you could subscribe to the WFTDA's YouTube channel to be notified every time a new game hits the channel. So subscribe and follow on Twitch, subscribe and like on YouTube, and get all of that roller derby content around the world, which is pretty much Australia and New Zealand right now.
And also talk to us on the Twitch channel during today's games. Czajkilski is monitoring the chat and sort of feeding us any useful or interesting tidbits. So please do communicate with us, because otherwise it does feel, particularly in our rooms in different parts of the world, that we're talking into a void. And that's not that. Nobody wants to talk into the void. Talk to us and chat to us on Twitch. So
okay,
that review is.
Oh, were you going to say the review's over?
I was going to say that review is over. What's the score?
The score is 225 VCR 57 by the Katanas, and now everyone on the world knows how hard it is to call a game when you can't tap the person next to you.
But that next jam is underway, and the Katanas have picked up lead, but it is a penalty for the Block Lobsters jammer, so this is now a power jam to the Katanas. And these power jams and these moments just can switch momentum very quickly, and we've seen the momentum shift already about 3 times in this half, so let's see how the Katanas make the most of this 30 seconds. And it's some incredible toe stop work on that inside. The Katanas jammer gets through, calls the jam, so they won the power start.
They're going to reset then. Start once more. Interesting choice there to call it off when you have control. Probably deciding this. Actually, it's not a terrible idea, because now you can mess with your lineup a little bit and be prepared for that power start, as opposed to when it just kind of happens upon you. Score is 225, VCR 61 for the Katanas.
I think also when we've seen such strong defence at the start of jams, that it makes sense to be able to have your blockers to help you get through and get that lead. But it is a hit out to the inside that recycles the Katanas jammer and the Block Lobsters jammer out of the box, back on track, and pushing out front with just one blocker ahead, and picks up lead. So that was a shutout on that power start for the Katanas by the Block Lobsters. And it's now a power jam to the Block Lobsters, because it is a penalty to the Katanas.
Looked like a cut penalty that was being called around the corner by that jam ref, who is number or face I cannot see. Looks like an official timeout. I see some shoulder tapping going on right now. Clock is at 1:50. That was jam 21. We'll see what's going on now. And yeah, this has been exciting. And don't forget, if you like what you see here and you want to broadcast your games, Without the expense and hassle of traditional streaming, the Remote Studio can get your games to a global audience with as little as a smartphone. No matter your location or budget, get streaming with the Remote Studio. You can contact broadcast at quadmedia.tv.
And if you're thinking about, you're looking at being able to get back into skating, maybe you've seen the new beginner skater program, This is Roller Derby. If you have questions on where and how to start, make sure you join the skating education and training community at WeFTDA. We'll be discussing your questions, adding resources, and linking to more information around skating curriculum. Skating education and training at community.wftda.org, which is... I've been so excited to see how the sport is developing and how we can make sure that people coming into the sport can stay safe, can learn derby as quickly as possible, and get playing safely, in a sort of much more comprehensive, structured way. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how that's going to take us to the next stage.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it too. I love a good curriculum. I love some learnings. So, looks like this is a continued OTO. I'm not quite sure what's going on quite yet.
So just a reminder that this is a whole day of roller derby. So at 11 a.m. Australian time, it is the BCR Banshees versus Tweed Valkyries. At 12:45 p.m., which is nearly 4 a.m. my time, so I'm not sure I'll still be here. It's the Card Ninja Stars versus the North Brisbane Rollers of Blackhearts. And we finish off the day at 2:30 Australian time with the BCR Violet Femmes versus... But I think that's about 6 in the morning my time, so I might check that one out on YouTube later.
I commend your ability to do time zone math in your head, because I'm completely incapable. I cannot, when someone's like GMT minus 10, I'm like, oh my gosh. Anyway, that's not a thing that
I got
skilled in. I'm like, I'm going to need you to send me an invite on my Google Calendar that does all the math for me.
I have to admit, I have to confess, I did not do that in my head. I did work it out in advance.
I'm impressed.
You can't see my written notes on my desk here.
I mean, that's another thing.
So the next jam is back. Next jam is back underway, and that was a swift first initial pass from the Block Lobsters, who are now, their jammer is in the pack scoring points. And we're on the straightaway between turns 2 and 3.
I was going to say, the score at the beginning of this jam is no longer the score. It was 226 to 61. So we'll find out at the end of this jam what it is now.
Both jammers back on track. And it is the Block Lobsters, though, completing that 4-point scoring pass. Katana's jammer now completed initial pass. So the Block Lobsters going for the points out on the outside. Makes it through for the 4 points.
We had a minute 15
deciding
left.
To play the jam long.
Yeah, probably because we're getting close to the end of the half. I can't see the time, but we had a minute 15 left at the start of this jam. So
yeah, unfortunately, Block Lobster jam is sent to the box for a cut penalty. So this is now a power jam to the Katanas. So that playing it long has had that impact. But the Katana's jam is still on at the back of the pack on turn 4.
Great work here by the Block Lobsters in pushing that jammer back. My feed is frozen, so I can't see what's happening.
Roller derby is happening. Just unfortunately, our screens are frozen momentarily.
Right at the end of the game. It always happens right at the end of the game.
But I definitely believe that roller derby is happening. I can hear whistles.
Looks like the internet is down at the venue, so we'll try and get the score at the end of this game.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're gonna wait on that score, and then we'll tell you who won. Looks like the full time was up, so
it wouldn't be a roller derby tournament if the venue Wi-Fi didn't fall over. I mean, it's actually the law that has to happen.
Score at the end of this game was 238 for BCR, and the Katanas at 65. And yeah, I mean, let's be real. At the marvel that we just called a roller derby game, you're in the UK, I'm in America, in the US, and the game we called was in Australia, and only at the very, very last 30 seconds did the internet go down. So I think I call this a rousing success.
I call this living in the future.
We literally
it was a super fun
game in the future. Yeah, it was super fun. We had momentum, went back and forth, and BCR took an early lead and held on to that for the whole game. But I don't think the Katanas gave up. They kind of fought that all the way to the end, and they really were able to adjust and get lead more and more as the game progressed.
Absolutely agree. I think it was really interesting to see how both teams started adapting to each other. You know, in that second half, those momentum swings, but the BCR defense was just absolutely solid. And in the end, being able to hold back those Katana jammers was what really sort of made sure that they had that points lead, because the game didn't feel as unbalanced as the points are. But yeah, it's a fantastic game to go back and watch.
If I were BCR, I would take this game and I would lead and say, yep, it totally works if we can keep the defense blockers kind of all around the place so we can open up those inside and outside lines for our jammers. Those jammers did a great job of taking them and not slowing down, gave them momentum to really rack up the multi-passes. And if I were the Katanas, I would say we need to push the jammers all the way over the lines. We need to watch those lines, and we need to hold our shapes. And so that is the end of this. It was great to be with you. I'm October Revolution.
Yeah. I'm Dork Mistress, and we've been joined by Tchaikovsky. So thank you for tuning in. And the next whistle is at 11 a.m. Australian time for Game 2, which is the BCR Banshees versus the Tweed Valley Valkyries.